Today we are going to study about brachial plexus, its formation and branches. I am Dr. Swapna Ambekar. I work as Associate Professor at GMCH Aurangabad, Maharashtra. So let's start. Whatever we are studying, we should always check the competencies. And here are the competencies about brachial plexus 10.3, 10.5, and 10.6. 10.6 is mainly about the applied aspect. Today we will study part of 10.3 and 10.5, that is formation of brachial plexus and its branches, area of supply of these branches. In short, details we will study along with the part. What are the variations in formation of this brachial plexus? Okay, so our today's objectives. These are, at the end of today's class, every student should understand, answer, and write about formation of brachial plexus. What are the prefix and postfix plexus? What are the branches arising from the roots, trunk, and cords, and the general idea about area of supply of these branches. So, to start with, what do we mean by plexus? Plexus is a network and brachium is the arm. So, uh, suppose these are the cervical vertebrae. This is the lateral aspect of neck, and for study purpose we divide neck in the anterior and the posterior aspect. So these are cervical vertebrae. This is first rib, this is first rib, this is second rib, and this is the lateral aspect of clavicle. So this is the this part is the posterolateral aspect of not posterolateral, it is the anterolateral aspect of the neck, and it is a part of posterior triangle. Okay, so this posterior triangle of neck, it is having scalenus anterior muscle uh, and scalenus posterior muscle. Okay, so these brachial plexus, they arise from the cervical vertebrae by roots. Okay, so they arise from anterior primary rami of lower four cervical nerves and first thoracic nerve. So from C5 to T1. Then they are situated in posterior triangle of neck between scalenus anterior and scalenus posterior, and they extend in axilla around the axillary artery. So just understand, suppose here is the, this is neck and here is the part of shoulder. So we all know that at the outer border of first rib, the subclavian artery, it continues as axillary artery. So this is a part of axillary artery. We have cut the, this is clavicle, and we have cut the clavicle. So this is axillary artery. Now this brachial plexus, they are situated around this axillary artery. They arise from the cervical vertebrae as roots. These roots, they will join and again separate, and they will form trunk, division, and cords, and are situated around this artery, and they extend into the axilla. Now you all know this is coracoid process. This coracoid process, it gives attachment. This is coracoid process. This coracoid process, it gives attachment to the pectoralis minor muscle. This pectoralis minor muscle, it divides axillary artery into three parts. First part, second part, and the third part. So this brachial plexus, while they are situated around this artery, okay, these form the trunks, divisions, and then cords. These cords, they are labeled in relation to this axillary artery. They are labeled according to the second part, which is posterior to this coracobrachialis. This is pectoralis minor. So this second part is posterior to this pectoralis minor muscle, and the lateral cord, posterior cord, and medial cord. It means it is lateral to the artery, axillary artery, then posterior to the artery and medial to the artery. So coming back, situation, it is situated in the posterior triangle of neck between scalenus anterior, this is scalenus anterior, and scalenus posterior muscle, and in axilla around the axillary artery. Then extend. They extend from scalenus anterior to inferior border of pectoralis minor. This is pectoralis minor. So from this posterior triangle of neck between scalenus anterior and posterior, which is supraclavicular part, and then it extends till the lower border of pectoralis minor, where it divides into various branches, right, and ends by division of cords into terminal branches in the axillary fossa, right. Then now let us study about formation of the brachial plexus, how they are formed. So these are the roots. It is formed by the roots, that is C5, C6, C7, C8 and T1. So from lower fourth cervical and first anterior rami of T1 nerve. Now these roots, that is C5 and C6, they will join to form upper trunk, and C7, it continues as middle trunk, while C8 and T1, it will join to form lower trunk. So these are the roots, these are the trunks. Now each trunk, that is, now this is upper trunk, this is middle trunk, and this is lower trunk. Now each trunk, it divides into anterior and posterior branches. So let's first study about the anterior branches, which I am showing with the red color. The anterior division of upper trunk and middle trunk, it will join, and the anterior division of lower trunk, it will continue as it is. So anterior division of upper trunk and middle trunk will join to form the lateral cord. So anterior division, upper and the middle trunk, it will form lateral cord. The anterior division of lower trunk continues as medial, medial, medial cord, while all the posterior divisions of upper trunk, middle trunk and lower trunk, they will join to form posterior cord. So these are the formation of brachial plexus. I repeat, brachial plexus, they are formed by roots C5, C6, C7, C8 and T1. The C5 and C6, it will join to form upper trunk. C7 continues as middle trunk. C8 and T1 join to form lower trunk. Now each trunk, it divides into anterior division and posterior division. The anterior division of upper trunk and middle trunk, it will join to form lateral cord. The anterior division of lower trunk will continue as medial cord. The the posterior division of upper, middle and lower trunk will join to form posterior cord. Right, so these are the formation. Now the branches, they arise from roots and trunks and cords. These are the divisions. Branches do not arise from the divisions, and in the trunk they arise only from the upper trunk. Right now, these divisions, they are present posterior to the clavicle. So these roots and trunks, these are in the supraclavicular part, while divisions, these are posterior to the clavicle, and these cords and these divisions, they extend into axilla as well. So this lower part of division, that is their joining and this formation of the cords and their branches, they extend into axilla, that is infraclavicular part. Now, what do we mean by prefix and postfix plexus? We have seen that the brachial plexus, they are formed by C5 to T1. So in prefix, the contribution for from C4 is main. Contribution from C4 is main, while contribution from T1 is minimum. So C4, C5, this is C5, C6, C7, C8. They participate in formation of the plexus, while contribution from T1 is negligible. This is prefix. In postfix, okay, so this is T1 root which will contribute negligibly. Now in postfix, what happens is, the contribution post is a segment below. So instead of C5 to T1, here C6 to T2 will continue. So the contribution from C5 is negligible, while C6, C7, C8, T1 and T2 participates in formation. This is T2. So the one segment, the C5 contribution from C5 is negligible, while contribution from T2 is more. So simply we can say that prefix is having a contribution to the plexus from C4 without significant contribution from T1, and postfix is T2 contribution without significant contribution from C5. So we can simply say shift a segment upwards is prefix, that is C4 to C8, and shift a segment down, that is postfix, that is C6 to T2. Now, what are the branches and area of supply of root, trunk and lateral cord? So, first we will study about root, trunk and lateral cord. From the root, so let's label C5, C6, C7, C8 and T1. From C5, from C5, so from C5, the branch arises. This is dorsal scapular nerve. Dorsal scapular nerve. It also gives contribution to phrenic nerve. Then it gives the C5 and C6. They give number of muscular branches to scalenus and longus colli muscle. And the most important nerve arising from the root is the long thoracic nerve, which arises from C5, C6 and C7. Now, whenever we are talking about any nerve, we should know what is the root value. So, root value for dorsal scapular nerve will be C5. This phrenic nerve, it receives contribution from another nerve. So, just remember that C5 gives contribution to phrenic nerve, while this long thoracic nerve, this is formed by C5, C6 and C7 nerve. This dorsal scapular nerve, it supplies, now area of supply, dorsal scapular nerve, as the name indicates, it goes on the dorsal aspect, and it supplies rhomboidus major, rhomboidus minor, and latissimus and levator scapulae muscle. Okay, and this long thoracic nerve, it supplies to the serratus anterior muscle. This is very important clinically. Long thoracic nerve, its applied importance is very its applied anatomy is very important. Then, so these are the branches which are arising from the roots. Now, what are the branches from the trunk? I told you only upper trunk. This upper trunk, so let me just label. This is upper trunk. This upper trunk, it gives two branches. These are suprascapular nerve and nerve to subclavius. Subclavius muscle, it is situated in the lower one third of middle part of clavicle. And the suprascapular, as the name indicates, the suprascapular nerve, it enters through the suprascapular foramen, supplies supraspinatus, then passes through spinoglenoid notch and then supplies infrascapular. So the suprascapular nerve, it supplies supraspinatus and the infraspinatus muscle. Subclavius, it supplies to the subclavius muscle. Now just understand this area, that is upper trunk. This part, okay, this part. Now here there are 6 nerves. What are these 6 nerves? C5, C6, then anterior division, posterior division of upper trunk, and suprascapular nerve and nerve to subclavius. These 6 nerves are meeting here, so this point is called as Erb's point. What is Erb's point? Erb's point is the point where 6 nerves formed by the upper trunk, where 6 nerves are meeting. These nerves are C5, C6, then anterior division of upper trunk, posterior division of upper trunk, then suprascapular nerve and nerve to subclavius. This point is clinically very important. Depending on this Erb's point, your core competency 10.6. Applied anatomy we will study. So these are the branches and supply of root and the trunk. Now what about lateral cord? This lateral cord, it gives 3 branches. What are these? The lateral pectoral nerve, then lateral root of median nerve, this is median nerve, and musculocutaneous nerve. This lateral pectoral nerve, it will go in the pectoral region, pectoralis major and minor. This musculocutaneous nerve, as the name indicates, it will have muscular component as well as cutaneous component. Okay, this muscular component, it will supply to the muscles of anterior aspect of arm, and cutaneous component will supply to the lateral skin of lateral aspect of forearm. While this lateral root of median nerve, it will join with the medial root of median nerve arising from the medial cord. This is medial cord. This is lateral cord. This medial root of median nerve joins with lateral root of median nerve to form median nerve. This median nerve is, it supplies mainly to the muscles of forearm and few muscles of palm. Right. So I repeat the branches from the lateral cord. The branches are lateral pectoral nerve, which supplies to the muscles of pectoral region. Musculocutaneous nerve, where muscular component is for the anterior aspect of arm. Cutaneous component is for the lateral aspect of forearm, and lateral root of median nerve, which will join with medial root of median nerve to supply the muscles of anterior aspect of forearm, few muscles or maximum muscles, and few muscles in the anterior aspect of palm. So these are the branches and area of supply of root, trunk and lateral cord. Now what are the branches and area of supply of medial cord? This medial cord, one branch we already have seen, that is medial root of median nerve, which will join with the lateral root of median nerve arising from the lateral cord. This is medial cord. Now, so these two will join and form median nerve. We have seen its supply as well. Now, other branches from the medial cord is medial cutaneous nerve of arm, medial cutaneous nerve of arm, then medial cutaneous nerve of forearm, then one already seen medial root of median nerve, and then there is medial pectoral nerve, and ulnar nerve. So the branches arising from medial cord, this is medial cord. There are four branches. Number one, medial pectoral nerve. As the name indicate, it will supply along with the lateral pectoral nerve of lateral cord to the pectoral muscle. Then medial root of median nerve, which will join with the lateral root to form median nerve, which will supply and maximum muscles of anterior aspect of forearm and few muscles of anterior aspect of palm. Then it will give medial cutaneous nerve of arm. As the name indicate, it will give cutaneous supply to the medial aspect of arm. This medial cutaneous is the smallest branch and first visible when we start dissection in the arm for the branches. And then medial cutaneous nerve of forearm, as the name indicates, it will supply to the medial aspect of forearm skin. And ulnar nerve, this is most important, one of the most important nerve of brachial plexus. This ulnar nerve, it will supply few muscles of forearm which are not supplied by medial nerve, and it will supply anterior aspect of palm along with the median nerve. Okay, maximum muscles of anterior aspect of palm. So this ulnar nerve is also called as musician's nerve, while median nerve is also called as laborer's nerve. So these are the branches of medial cord of brachial plexus. Now what are the branches from the posterior cord? This posterior cord, it will give upper subscapular, then lower subscapular, then nerve to latissimus dorsi, so then axillary nerve and radial nerve. First, about the let me tell you about the root value. Root value we had discussed along with this branches from the root. Now all the branches arising from upper trunk will have root value of C5, C6, because upper trunk is formed by C5, C6. Then all the branches arising from lateral cord will have root value of C5, C6 and C7, because they are formed by C5, C6 and C7. Right. Next, the branches arising from medial cord, they will have root value of, see, it is formed by anterior division of lower trunk, which is formed by C8 and T1. So all the branches which are arising from medial cord will have root value of C8 and T1. Now for the ulnar, the C7 component will contribute in ulnar. It will join with ulnar. Then from the posterior cord, this posterior cord, for this radial nerve, the branches which are arising from the radial, this radial nerve will have root value of C5, C5, C6, C7, C8 and T1. All of this will contribute in formation of radial nerve, and rest of the branches, they will have root value mainly from the C5 and C6 segments. Okay. Now, as the name indicate, this upper subscapular, lower subscapular, they will supply, give branches to the subscapular muscle. They will also supply branch to the shoulder joint. Then nerve to latissimus dorsi will supply to the latissimus dorsi. Axillary nerve, it will give two muscles, that is deltoid and teres minor, while this radial nerve, it is the nerve of posterior aspect of arm, forearm. Okay, so this radial nerve, it will supply the muscles in posterior aspect of arm and forearm. This is all about branches and area of supply of posterior cord. Right. Now the questions which are asked. A long question is asked, describe brachial plexus under following heads, that is formation, branches and applied anatomy. Applied is 10.6, core competency, you must read about it. Then a number of brief answer questions are asked about the cords or their branches. Then long thoracic nerve is very important. It is also called as nerve of Bell. Then short answer question may be asked on the long thoracic nerve, what is prefix, postfix, brachial plexus. Variations in formation of brachial plexus, right? The number of MCQs they are asked. These are following are the branches of lateral cord of brachial plexus. So when you know the answer, distracted you can find. Ulnar nerve is a branch from, right? Then usually dorsal scapular. Why usually? Because in prefix, postfix it will change. So you need to check the root value. Then radial nerve is a branch from which part of brachial plexus? Root value of long thoracic nerve. Right? These are the references. This is all. Thank you very much.